Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. With the announcement of the Raiden Shogun's rerun in the second half of patch 2.5, this is the perfect time to talk about her pros and cons. In today's video, we'll be going over 35 things to spark your interest for the Raiden Shogun's rerun. Raiden's release back on September 1st, 2021 was surprisingly to me, met with quite a lot of controversy. And you'll never guess who's about to bonk the traveler in this cutscene, because it's today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is everywhere because the amount of new content is outrageous. There are millions of players and it's available on both mobile and PC. Destroy that link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen right now to get started with Raid. One of my favorite heroes in Raid is Vergumkar, the legendary lizard man. I absolutely love having interesting heroes to collect, and Vergumkar exceeds those expectations by being a literal giant lizard. Vergumkar is the best way to counter the provoke debuff as he removes it from your entire team. My next most favorite hero is the scorchingly hot Cecilia Flametongue. She gives me some serious Queen of Blades vibes, and I'm a huge StarCraft fan, so she's right up my alley. Cecilia burns everything, including herself, which only makes her stronger when more things are on fire. And did you know, the fastest way to level up your champions is through farming the campaign. You can grind loads of EXP and silver all at the same time. And as usual, Raid's got huge updates this month. There is a fresh rotation of the brutal six-headed Hydra boss, and there are tons of events and tournaments, and even a Valentine's Day event to get a legendary champion. And if you want an even bigger head start, all you have to do is hit the link in the description below or scan the QR code right here. New players will get an epic hero, Tayrel, 200k silver, 1 EXP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. You will find your rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. I wanted to thank all of you for your support and Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Much of the community thought she was garbage, despite her personal DPS even at Constellation 0 being similar to Xiao, and despite them also thinking that Xiao is a top tier DPS. However, as time went on, Raiden quickly became a fan favorite, as players ended up learning what she's good for and finally ended up farming the catch. As such, it was quickly discovered that Raiden is amazing at all levels of investment. So let's start with the completely free to play player who only managed to get a Constellation 0 Raiden. First of all, if you're willing to sacrifice a portion of your sanity to catch a gazillion freaking pufferfish, which most fish to plays have done by now, you are able to get the incredible fish to play weapon, the catch. Besides the cinnabar spindle literally being the best weapon for albedo and only albedo, the catch is by far the strongest free to play weapon we've gotten thus far, and thus the standard fish to play Raiden build consists of a refinement 5, the catch, the 4-piece emblem of severed fates, and of course Raiden at Constellation 0. As for the artifact stats, a standard fish to play Raiden is expected to have an energy recharge timepiece, an attack percent or electro damage goblet, and as much crit rate and crit damage as otherwise possible. With this setup, it's very common for fish to play Raidens to have around 250% energy recharge. Now, this Constellation 0 Raiden is able to provide so much additional support to her entire team. Her burst provides her with literally perfect super armor that can only be stopped by freeze and death itself, and this allows her to Unga Boonga uncontested with no regard for danger if she's in a powerful healing field. As such, at Constellation 0, she is either able to be a main DPS character with a team centered around her, or she's able to be the driver for other powerful off-field DPS characters like Xingqiu and Xiangling. Raiden also generates a tremendous amount of energy for her entire team. With the aforementioned 250 energy recharge, just from her burst alone she can generate 23.75 energy for every single character in your entire team. This doesn't even include the electro particles that her elemental skill generates. Anyway, people often underestimate how long it takes to funnel energy to your supports and sub-DPS characters. The extra 23.75 energy that Raiden provides her entire team cuts down tremendously on energy funneling, thus saving you a ton of time on your rotation. And that leads us to talk about her actual damage. Even at Constellation 0 with free-to-play level supports, Raiden is able to output some impressive nukes doing around even 300,000 damage with some crit fishing. The initial slash on her burst has deceptively large AoE both horizontally and vertically, as it's able to hit things in Venti's Tornado. Her charge attacks also have huge AoE, and as such, hypercarry Raiden even at completely free-to-play free-to-play levels is a surprisingly viable option. And you know what else is a viable option? Smashing that subscribe button, which takes you around 2 seconds versus watching me tell you that 69% of you all aren't subscribed. So yeah, smash it. Now it's worth noting that her burst isn't perfect, as it has a long 18-second cooldown and a short 7-second infusion duration. Her burst also has a 90 energy cost, which can be an issue sometimes even when you build her with tons of energy recharge. A 7-second duration is generally too short to be used through many monsters' invincibility durations, such as the Magukenkis, Childs, and against enemies spread across the entire map, as valuable time is wasted running instead of attacking. The next topic worth highlighting is that farming for Raiden hugely boosts the overall power level of your account. Farming for the Emblem of Severed Fates and Shimenao's Reminiscence is overall the best resin to useful artifact ratio for the most amount of characters. Tons of characters love using the Emblem of Severed Fates, like Raiden, Xingqiu, Xiangling, Beidou, Sara, Rosaria, Jean, Zhongli, Mona, and I'm sure there are others. Meanwhile, the Shimenao's Reminiscence is a universally good artifact set for its 2-piece set bonus, and the 4-piece set bonus is also useful on a few characters as well. Another hugely beneficial characteristic of gearing Raiden is that she can use an electro goblet or an attack percent goblet, two similar levels of performance. However, her timepiece is more restrictive, with energy recharge being highly recommended, but the energy recharge timepiece is still twice as common as an electro goblet, so it's still twice as easy to farm. You can also concurrently fish for Raiden's best fish-to-play weapon, the catch, which is completely resin-free and simply gated by fish respawn timers. The catch is an amazing pole arm for all the burst damage dependent pole arm characters like Xiangling, Zhongli, and Rosaria, and the catch is made even better with the Emblem of Severed Fates. Farming for the Raiden Shogun isn't just for the Raiden herself, but ends up being a huge boost to the overall power level of your entire account. Now, I also wanted to talk about a couple of her early constellations, namely Constellation 1, 2, and 3. Looking at this chart of a Raiden with the catch, assuming you start with 0 resolve, for example at the beginning of an Abyss floor, Constellation 1 is helpful for boosting your damage by roughly 12%. However, everyone at this point knows that it's really her Constellation 2 that makes her crazy, which ignores 60% defense for her burst damage, and such a powerful constellation being available at just Constellation 2 makes this one of the best early to go for constellations in the entire game. Constellation 2 provides a 43% increase in damage from Constellation 1. And if you go for Constellation 3, this is another 18% increase on top of Constellation 2. This leads to just 3 of Raiden's constellations nearly doubling her damage. For those that already have Raiden at Constellation 0, after a couple more reruns and some patient saving of Primo Gems, even fish to plays can get the incredibly powerful Constellation 2 or possibly Constellation 3 Raiden, who is literally meta defining and whose damage is in range of speedrunning territory. Now it's also worth noting that Constellations 4 through 6 are comparatively low impact, but they are still fun for whales to use, so fish to plays don't really have to worry about getting Constellations 4 through 6. That leads to the final topic that I always like to cover when it comes to these types of videos, and that is Raiden's end-to-end game potential. Raiden has been crushing leaderboards and world record times ever since her release. She's one of the best characters for all forms of speedruns, whether that's single chambers or continuous runs. Raiden is, in my opinion, in the top 3 speedrunning compositions, along with Melt's Ganyu and Shenhe plus Ayaka, with each being better than the others in different scenarios, and of course each being usable on different sides of the Abyss. Of course, there are other compositions which can compete, like for example Child International, but in terms of overall potential and well-roundedness, Raiden's teams rank very highly. And while I'm discussing team compositions like that, this leads to a bonus topic which is about Raiden's teams. So there are some pros and cons to this. The 3 main compositions currently are Hypercarry Raiden, Raiden National, and Raiden Eula. One major con for Hypercarry Raiden is that she likes having Constellation 6 Sara. Getting Constellation 6 Sara can be a daunting task for fish to plays, as well as getting Raiden to Constellation 2, which is highly recommended for this Hypercarry build. Also, Hypercarry Raiden, being an attack scaling electro DPS character, heavily relies on having Bennett and Kazuha to bring out her maximum potential. As such, Hypercarry Raiden also hogs 2 of the best supports in the game. As for Raiden National, which is a much more free-to-play friendly option, option. It fortunately works and allows Xiangling to vape thanks to Raiden's electro element, not removing hydro from Xingqiu's hydro application. Now unfortunately with Raiden National, it doesn't scale as well into the speedrunning territory, but that territory is generally not focused for most players. And last but not least, we have Raiden Eula. Raiden Eula is currently one of the best speedrunning cores in the game, but as explosive as it is equally expensive, as in order to draw out Eula's full potential for this team, you want her at Constellation 6. Of course, Constellation 6 Eula works extraordinarily well, but Constellation 0 in my opinion also works okay. But many theory crafters claim that Constellation 0 Eula with Constellation 0 Raiden is bad, as they call it. Since I have never personally tried Constellation 0 Eula with Constellation 0 Raiden, I cannot attest to this claim, so let me know in the comments below what you think about Constellation 0 Eula plus Constellation 0 Raiden. With all that being said and done, it's time to provide a summary and a couple bonus items of all 35-ish things that I covered in this video. Starting with her pros. She is the best battery in the game. This leads to drastically shortened rotations thanks to a lot less funneling for the rest of the team. From an energy perspective, depending on the scenarios, Raiden rarely struggles to get her burst up, since she's usually built with 250 to 300% energy recharge. Raiden has great AoE with a huge initial horizontal slash and huge charged attacks, and she has perfect super armor and thus is a great on-field driver. She is also easy to use as you can spam normals and do just fine, and as mentioned, she has that crazy super armor. And if you want to squeeze more DPS out of her, you can always use N1C or N3C. Her best in slot artifact set is the Emblem of Severed Fates, which is literally the best domain to farm for your overall account level power. Gearing her is surprisingly easier than other characters because of her flexible goblet choice, which can be either attack percent or electro damage. She provides a long-lasting E that buffs party bursts and does noticeable off-field damage, and she has great free-to-play option weapons with the catch, the Favonius Lance, or even the Skyward Spine for those that unfortunately, or fortunately I guess, got it from the standard banner. She's currently the best Electro Nuker and Electro DPS character in the game, and with the way that Electro works, Electro doesn't immediately remove Hydro, so overvape with Xiangling and Xingqiu is very practical. Constellation 0 Raiden is still a decent DPS character at around Xiao's level of DPS, and Raiden gets a huge power spike from Constellation 2. At Constellation 2, Raiden becomes one of the best DPS characters in the game, and for just one more Constellation, Constellation 3, it adds another 20% DPS on top of Constellation 2 Raiden. Raiden has multiple strong team compositions, which are Raiden National, consisting of Raiden, Bennett, Xingqiu, and Xiangling, which in my opinion is best for free-to-play players. And next is the Raiden Hyper Carry team, which is best for really dedicated fish-to-plays or for dolphins and whales. And finally we have Raiden Eula, which really goes above and beyond at whale levels, but should still be viable for fish-to-plays as well. And last but not least, Raiden has tons of world records in speedrunning since her debut. Now every single character has their cons and Raiden is no exception. Starting off, she is not great without her burst to say the least, and for some contrived reason she doesn't work with Beidou. She has a short burst infusion window and a long 18-second cooldown. Electro does not melt or vape and thus misses out on that additional multiplier. And she is inflexible with her timepiece, with energy recharge being really the only option. Her elemental skill ticks don't affect most elemental shields, and I would describe her as an average DPS at Constellation 0 at roughly Xiao levels of damage output. Raiden does require Constellation 2 or Constellation 3 to really be considered broken, and her Constellations 4 through 6 are relatively low impact. Raiden gets a big spike in DPS with Constellation 6 Sara as well, which is difficult for fish-to-plays to obtain. Raiden also suffers from success, wherein killing things too quickly can leave her without a burst, and thus leading to the very first problem mentioned in this list. And finally, her teams are often centered around the best support characters and the best sub-DPS characters like Bennett, Kazuha, Xingqiu, and Xiangling. Raiden holds a special place in my heart, as honestly the content I created around her really bolstered my YouTube channel immensely. All in all, Raiden is one of my favorite characters in Genshin Impact, and I hope this video taught you something about her favorite electro archon. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button, as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.